African spiritual significance of the placenta and various beliefs. This scripture describes almost three things at the same time, describing the placenta and the power it carries, the umbilical cord and the power it carries, and your belly button and the power it carries. Hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm Sephora Moses and I welcome you to Ink and Tales. Today we are exploring the significance of the placenta in African cultures and why some women eat the placenta. Firstly, what do Africans do when a child is born? Birth among the Bantu people was traditionally attended by an older woman, such as a grandmother or a traditional birth attendant. After a birth, the mother is secluded in her hut with the baby until she stops bleeding, and burial of the placenta and cord has great importance in this affair. While mothers are revered as creators, as providers, cradle rockers, nurturers, and goddesses, they also inspire awe because they are known to wage huge powers in their children's lives, even more so during and after childbirth. Therefore, the placenta becomes a personified, embodied part of childbirth, symbolizing the links between women, childbirth, and nature, and also the relationship between childbirth and spirituality. The significance of the placenta in African cultures. Given the great importance of this organ during pregnancy and its close relation to the baby, it is no surprise that the placenta, though simply dismissed and discarded as biological waste in some cultures, is considered sacred and given much reverence in many African traditions. In the Ijaw tribe of the south region of Nigeria, for instance, the placenta is not simply put away like a common hospital waste. In the past, this crucial organ was planted along with plantains, as it was believed that while the plantains grow healthily, so did the child. In the relatively recent times, the organ is buried deep in the earth so that it becomes one with the soil, thus preventing those with ignoble and evil intentions from having access to it, for it is believed that the placenta, being so connected to the baby during pregnancy, can be used as a means of disrupting its destiny or preventing its mother from subsequent conception. A traveling companion. Similarly, some communities in northern Nigeria, while referring to the placenta as the traveling companion of the baby, as it is said to accompany the child from its previous realm to the one in which it is born. Also ensure that the placenta is given a proper burial at a far distance from the home of the child, because it is believed to be connected to the mother and must be hidden from those who might wish to prevent her from bearing more children. A bad omen. Amongst the Yorubas of southwest Nigeria, the placenta is regarded as the beginning of life and must be protected for the safety and security of the child and its future. This organ must be buried by the father or a close relative of the mother, and the grave in which it is placed must be deep and covered up properly, so as to prevent it from being dug up and consumed by carnivorous animals, as such a thing is perceived to be a bad omen, in that the life of the child might be blighted by these arts. In the same Yoruba culture, it is said that the placenta, which is referred to as Ibi, meaning the word is a vicissitude of good and bad, is the bad counterpart of the baby, who is the good, and while the good is taken home, the bad must be buried, as one cannot take into one's home that which is not good. To bind the child to the earth and the destruction of destinies. The Igbo of the southeast, on the other hand, dispose of this sacred organ by burying it underneath a fruitful tree. The tree is then considered the child's tree, and it is said to bear fruit according to the child's successes throughout its lifetime. The art carried out primarily by the mother is also believed to bind the child to the earth and to that place of significance in its community. Also, some claim that the spiritual perception of the placenta is that it is the duplicate of the baby, and while the placenta is physically separated from the child, spiritually they remain together. Thus, whatever is done to the placenta also affects the child. Using biblical scripture to back these points, and the list of things which the placenta may be used for by those with evil intents, including manipulation and destruction of destinies. Other African cultures, such as the Kenyan Luo culture, for example, believe that the placenta of a male child is to be buried on the right side of his mother's house, whereas the placenta of the female child must be buried on the left. In a 2008 article, it was stated that this practice is linked to the cosmological and symbolic system of the Luo culture, in which the right side relates to authority and permanency. Boys carry authority in the family, whilst the left side signifies impermanency. Girls are impermanent members of the community, as upon marriage they leave the family. To dry in the sun. The same article highlighted the practice of some South African women, which involves leaving certain pieces of the placenta and umbilical cord to dry in the sun for the purpose of making moti, believed to restore or encourage fertility in infertile women and ensure congenital bond between siblings. The dead twin of the living baby. In some parts of Ghana, the placenta is considered the dead twin of the living baby, and it is given full burial rites near the family home. Whereas in other parts of the country, it is believed that if the placenta is not buried in the proper manner, the child will grow to be rebellious and headstrong. Interestingly, the placenta is said to have the same genetic material as the baby, and it is delivered in the same manner as the baby, according to a 2020 article by Mayo Clinic. If a baby is delivered vaginally, so is the placenta during what is referred to as the third stage of labor. While these traditional African practices may appear to be rooted in superstition, the reverence given to the placenta in Africa and even beyond cannot simply be denied. It is thus clear that the placenta cannot and should not be so easily dismissed as medical waste, as there might indeed be more to this organ that means the eye. Why do Africans bury the placenta? The burial of the placenta and umbilical cord is thought to restore the woman's fertility and help heal her womb. This practice was even recorded in 19th century Sweden, harkening back to heathen times. After the umbilical cord has fallen off from the navel of the child, after some few days, it must be buried in a secret place so that the child is also attached to his or her home. The place where the umbilical cord is buried symbolizes the birthplace, the home or ancestral place of each individual. To link the child to the ancestors. The rituals and practices that come with the placental burial benefit both the mother and the child. Placental burial also links the child to the soil, earth, spirit, or ancestors. It is a way of introducing the child to the ancestors for protection. What is the spiritual meaning of burying placenta? For many cultures, the placenta is a living being. Some other cultures believe in a sort of twining of child and placenta. Also, ancient Egyptians as well as some other cultures believed that the placenta is the child's secret helper or guardian angel. In Cambodia, the placenta is considered to be the origin of the baby's soul, and therefore the burial place is surrounded with spiked plants to protect the baby's soul from evil spirits. For example, the ancient Egyptians believed that the placenta contains parts of the baby's soul which will only emerge if treated well. The royal placenta used to be carried in a ceremonial procession as a standard before the pharaoh. Each pharaoh had an official opener of the king's placenta. Holy ritual and miscarriage. In many regions, grandmothers and postmenopausal women undertook the duty. Until the arrival of Christianity, these regions had devoutly practiced a traditional religion that treated menstruation as impure. Hence, only those who did not experience menstruation, like men and postmenopausal women, were allowed to perform the holy ritual of burying the placenta. The placenta was buried with the attached umbilical cord facing up. If it was buried facing down, the next birth is believed to end in miscarriage. Ritual offerings at a placental burial. The placenta is buried either by placing it directly in a hole or by placing it in an unglazed pot, which is then buried. Placement in a pot signifies preservation, while direct burial into the soil signifies the return to the soil for rebirth. In the northern regions, rice and beans were placed on the placenta as ritual offerings at a placental burial. This was also based on the belief that the placenta is equivalent to the newborn and is meant to avoid hunger. Some people also sprinkle salt over the placenta. This is to prevent the placenta from decaying and is a ritual for preservation. The purpose of keeping the placenta after birth. Nowadays, some parents are keeping the placenta after birth for a variety of reasons. Some believe that eating the placenta offers a range of health benefits, while others want it for a variety of other meaningful uses, such as planting it with a tree or incorporating it into jewelry. It is sacred because the placenta is a key site of spiritual meaning for some birthing women, embodying the link between woman, child, transformation of pregnancy and birth. How to dispose of placenta after birth. It needs to be taken home as soon as possible after the birth. It should be stored in a refrigerator that does not contain any food and buried within 48 to 72 hours. Another alternative is to keep the placenta in its container, on ice and in an esky for no more than 48 hours prior to burial. Where to bury the placenta? You can put it in the ground in your yard or bury it in your garden. Some families choose to have a simple ceremony when putting the placenta in the ground to honor its role in sustaining and nourishing their baby before birth. The burial place differs from one culture to another, but the aim was to keep evil spirits, witchcraft, and other practices away from the child. Thus, rituals for the handling of the placenta must be performed precisely and with great care. Many of these rituals involve washing the placenta in a special liquid, wrapping it within certain fabric or plants, placing it in a specific vessel, and burying the placenta in a good location. So what does the Bible say about placenta? Job 14:16 KJV says, "Lo, now his strength is in his loins, and his force is in the navel of his belly." The scripture describes almost three things at the same time, describing the placenta and the power it carries, the umbilical cord and the power it carries, and your belly button and the power it carries. So there you have it. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in my next one. Bye bye.